Welcome to From Idea to Build, where today we're going to talk about taking a cocktail cabinet. You remember the old two-up arcade tables with the screen facing upward? Oh, you remember the 90s. You were there. So I'm going to take one of those that is non-functional, and I'm going to run MAME on it. But that's not really where it's interesting. I'm going to be running a fairly beefy piece of workstation hardware from several years ago, but it's pretty well built out, running unRAID, and on top of that, it's going to run blah, it's going to run the other thing, and then it's going to run more things. We'll get into that later on. Some of the challenges with this project are going to be a little bit of woodworking to get the monitor to fit in correctly, 3D printing the controller cartridge, the controller cases for the sides, particularly the one for the primary along the long side because it's turned into a 3-up machine, as well as custom glass and custom art, which I haven't done on a project like this before. So let's take a look at the box. And here we have the old Galaga box I located. Well, it didn't so much locate. When the company I was working for got purchased, this belonged to the previous company's owner. And since it was having problems, he went ahead and gave it to me when we got folded into our new company. Now, the screen is dead on it. The game board in it is a repop from the late 90s, so I don't really feel bad about tearing it apart. I'm going to be redoing the controllers. I'll be 3D printing and using some bent metal on my brake to make the game controllers on it. And I'm going to put another one here with a slide-out keyboard and magic trackpad. Which should be really easy to create a slot right across here for it to come out and drop down in case I need a keyboard and mouse. This monitor will just fit after rerouting the top on this, so I have a nice display. Now this wasn't expensive, but for my $200 price point for a display, this one has great viewing angles, and the resolution's okay. This should actually do very nicely for what I'm going to do. This plastic sheet will be replaced with tempered glass because I want to use the table regularly. The coin door will stay. This will be my access to make changes or repairs or anything along those lines. During the building process, I'll be using the larger opening here created by routing out for the new monitor to build everything into it. But I may do something about the, re-laminate the entire thing with some nicer wood, or not. I may just leave it the way it is. I am going to have to get a new decal for the surface. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to, what that's going to look like or what designs I'm going to use. But I'm probably going to have to drop the Galaga because this box is going to be multi-purpose and not really just for games. Okay, everything I have here should be able to do what I was talking about. For RAID purposes, I've got 5 6TB Western Digital red SATA drives, which will sit inside of this Silverstone 3x5 enclosure. No sleds or caddies needed for this. These drop in, very easy to use. Should be very easy to mount inside of the cabinet. For main duty, I've got the arcade controllers, basic stuff, 6-button plus 2, and then the joysticks. There will be a third set for so you could do 3-player for some things. And this is a GCX 960, not too exciting, but it should get the job done. Should be able to still play some modern games under Windows. Maybe I'll upgrade that as the project rolls on. We'll see. With the new 10 series out and the 1060 being so cheap, that's probably where I'm going to end up going. Over here, single USB 3 controller. I've got the ports for that sitting in the bin box, and then over here is the sound card for this Asus KGPE D16 dual Optron motherboard. It's running two 6308 CPUs, which are quad core. Still have 8 cores available, 128 gigs of RAM, which is probably a little bit of overkill, but considering that I'm going to be throwing a lot of VMs at this thing, it's probably good to have that. I'll be able to do some heavy work. And all of this together should be able to do Plex, household backup duty, MAME, and a Windows 10 box for playing, modern video games head to head with my buddies on my other machine. This is interesting. This is what's called a Pike controller, and this is a RAID controller, and this is essentially a PCIe 4-lane port that's been flipped backwards, and this is just a header that activates these SATA ports that run off of here. So I'll be able to fully populate this. If I need to, I can add another one of these with another 5 6-terabyte disks. This is going to give me, depending on how I do it, it'll either be 18 or 24 terabytes of usable space. Probably 18 because I'll want to run a hot spare. But this is the hardware I'm going to cram in it. And this should work out quite well. So I'm going to put all of this in there, along with this monitor in there. It should be cool. Now that you've had a look at what I'm going to be building it into, let's talk about how I'm going to be doing it. So I'm going to be building this on unRAID, which is a decent RAID competitor to FreeNAS, etc. unRAID has a nice clean interface, does RAID 5 very well, and the virtualization environment is very clean and easy to use and allows you to to assign specific pieces of hardware to a VM. So I'm going to be running Windows 10 as one of the VMs, and being able to assign the video card to it will be to my advantage. It'll allow me to play modern games, and it'll also allow me to run MAME pretty well without a hitch, I'd imagine. So it's going to be unRAID with 18 to 24 terabytes of storage, and then on top of that, Windows 10, and MAME will run within Windows 10. Now, the idea behind this was I've got a Synology box in my house, I've got Plex running on my workstation, I've got a little MAME box that I sometimes play with, and it'd be nice to be able to have friends come over and play games, you know, one-to-one, one of them on the cocktail table and me on my workstation. Okay, now that's not entirely fair because this won't quite hold up to that, but I'm not very good at video games anyway. But the virtualization aspect is really what I'm most interested in. Since I do system administration in real life, it's going to be nice to have be able to virtualize as many environments as I can, be able to play around with things, and basically have individual or multiple environments running on a single box. Since this thing has 128 gigs of RAM, I'm kind of not limited by that. CPU is probably going to be my biggest bottleneck, but since it's for testing, I'm not too worried about that. Gaming wise, these CPUs are going to hold me back a little bit, but it'll have the horsepower I need to do all of the different tasks at once. And since this is made up of stuff I had lying around, except for the hard drives and the Silverstone enclosure, that's pretty much where we're going to go.